What's going on, Flick Stalkers? Welcome back to another movie review, this time for A Quiet Place Day 1, which is out in theaters now, and I'm gonna let you guys know the good, the bad, where this ranks for me in the franchise so far. As if you guys didn't know already, this is the third installment, which is a prequel. But before we get into that, just know that this is completely spoiler free. I will not allude to anything that could ruin your movie-going experience. Whatever I'm gonna be talking about has clearly been already released in the trailers, and I'm gonna let you guys know should you watch this in theaters or watch this in the comfort of your own home when it comes to streamer. But before we get into all of that, guys, please make sure to hit that big thumbs up to support the channel. Consider subscribing today for more. And a quick synopsis for the film is: a woman named Sam finds herself trapped in New York City during the early stages of an invasion by alien creatures with ultra-sensitive hearing. All right, now before I dive into my pros and cons of this film, probably the question that you guys are asking me, should I watch this film first, or should I watch the first two before it? And I'll be completely honest, you guys can start with this one, as we're not alluding to any characters in the previous films, only one, Jimun Hansu's character, Henry, who does pop up in this movie with his family for a little bit, but just a little bit. It's a little cameo here, as well as one of the standout cameo characters, for me at least, Alex Wolff, playing Ruben. He plays someone who is a friend, a resident nurse to Sam, and the scenes that we did get to see from him on screen were, oh man, this kid is fantastic. And for me, honestly, I know him more from Old and Hereditary, and I was really looking forward to see if he had the acting chops and the growth from the last few films that I've seen him in, and he totally nailed it in this film. All right, now let's talk about our key players of Lupita Nyong'o playing Sam, or Samira. She is someone that right out the gate we find out that her living situation is a lot different than any character in this movie. Hell, I thought they really did a good job of hiding who she was from this trailer, which definitely does lend to her motivation or her outlook on life in the film. But acting wise, I knew she was not going to be any different from the roles that she had been seen in before, because man, I don't think I've seen a bad film that she has performed in, and she really just continues to shine for me, man. I felt the tears of joy, I felt the hopelessness, I felt all the loss, I felt all the fear, I felt all emotions in her, and it seemed like she wasn't even trying. Now, her counterpart in this film, played by Joseph Quinn, who does play Eric, wow. Man, okay, I only know you from Stranger Things, just strumming that guitar, doing the whole Metallica thing on top of that trailer, but now I want to check him out more, man. He is really, really good, and he plays someone that is definitely on the different emotional wavelength of this Sam character, as we get to see they do have some different backstories, so once again, motivations are different. He does start off as a very weak character and someone that's very anxiety-ridden, so I think a lot of people could relate to something like that, especially in a situation like this, but by the end of the film, it's like night and day the way his character transforms. And last but not least, the character that stole my heart, that stole Laura, my fiance's heart, was Frodo the cat. Okay, you guys do see Frodo in the trailer, and we didn't know how much implementation into this film he was gonna lend himself to. You see him through the whole movie, and wow, Frodo is fantastic. We have cats ourselves. We've been cat owners for about 5 years now, and I've talked about this here on the channel. I grew up with dogs, okay? So my feelings for cats was not even there until we decided to own a cat ourselves. And oh my God, I am such a cat dad. And I think if you guys are cat people too, you will fall in love with everything about Frodo in the end of this movie, that also lends to the emotional, dramatic pacing of this movie. So just wanted to throw that in there a little bit, guys, because if you aren't cat lovers, you might just be like, man, this is kind of a little boring what they're doing with this character, and you might not feel the intensity the scenes that Frodo's thrown into. But that cat is magnificent. Our cat would never let him be put into situations like that. All right, and the reason why most of us are here, for the creatures, the Quiet Place creatures. I don't know what else to call them, but yes, this is day one. We get to see them come from space in these asteroids or whatever, pods, I don't even know, but they crash land in New York. We get to learn a little bit, just a little bit more of how they came here, the pods that they came from. We also get to see, I believe from what I remember, different degrees, different levels of creatures, as some of them, to me, just from remembering on screen, looked like there was a noticeable size difference, or there might have been a queen in one of the scenes. I could be wrong, you guys let me know. But either way, these things are terrifying. And I gotta say, out of the 3 movies, this was the most terrifying because we have so many running at rapid speeds, just tearing up anything in their path, including humans. This atmosphere really gives you a strong sense that you will not make it out alive. And as such, the visual effects on these creatures were fantastic. Once again, just like in the first couple, if you guys haven't seen the first couple, we do get some close-up shots of these creatures, and the continuity is definitely there, especially since we saw these creatures from the first 2 movies. It looks very, very similar. Once again, you see a couple that look larger than others, but it's very detail oriented. We do get to see the extent of them not being able to see just everything based on hearing, which is another huge like of mine in this film, guys. They let you know right out the gate with some text across the screen at the beginning of this film that New York City has a 90 decibel output, which is comparable to a constant scream. That's how it sounded when I visited New York a couple of times. I can totally attest to that. So how do you stay quiet in a city that's this loud? So they really do represent that very, very well. I got a sense of dread, like I said, when these characters were walking in the city and just kind of looking at where they were stepping. I was covering my mouth like I was trying to keep quiet myself. Why am I doing that? I'm an audience member watching a movie. I mean, it really sucked me in. The final outcome was fear, and I think they did that very, very well. Yes, there's a lot of jump scares and pop-ups and stuff like that, but I think that's to be expected nowadays in horror. Yes, they did that in the first couple of movies, but in this one, it's effective. Like I said, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of more creatures. All right, guys, now if I had any cons for this film, it was definitely some of the predictability factors that was happening along the way. And I was, kind of in my mind just, oh, okay, gonna go from point A to point B to get out of the city, or this character is gonna do this. And I ended up being right. But at the same time, is that bad? No, not really. I'm just here for the wild ride along the way, and I could definitely see this being turned into some kind of ride at Universal Studios, as that's what it felt like we were on, a roller coaster of emotions, because not a con of mine, but I could see how this could be a con of others, as I've already talked to a couple of my buddies who have seen this movie, but they thought it got a little slow-paced at times, and it did. But once again, that leads to character development, at least for me, and maybe not for the audience that's looking for a creature wild ride nonstop. Also, I hope it's not the biggest spoiler, but if it is, I'll leave a timestamp where you guys can jump to my next thoughts. But I did think that they did not lend too much to the back lore of these creatures. We got a repetitive Quiet Place movie, and by the 3rd movie, and one that's supposed to be a prequel, we want to know how they got here. We want to know why they came here, at least to some extent. I want to know how the humans figured out that everything from them is based on sound. We don't get to find out any of that explanation in the film. Yes, we're more focused on these characters at hand. We're kind of a fly on the wall in their voyage to safety. But by the 3rd film, if you're really invested in this franchise, you'll want to know what the hell is going on with these creatures. And they didn't fill that void for me. And that was a little upsetting, because I'm like, wow, you're really gonna milk this cash cow, huh? At the end of the day, it's about these characters, Sam and Eric, a couple of surrounding characters, but mainly about them. Oh, and Frodo, of course. Once again, 2 walks of life, but both trying to survive in this creature-infested city. And all that being said, I think I'm gonna give A Quiet Place Day 1 a solid 4 out of 5, saying that I believe this one is the most fun in the franchise, but I don't think it's the best film in the franchise. That one still goes to the original, and I still suggest you guys watch this one first, then jump to the originals. But if you are going to be watching this film, watch it in theaters in Dolby Digital. Oh my God, our seats were rattling, especially when these creatures were running by, because for some reason they love to run in hordes like a stampede. I was terrified. I loved it. There is a great emotional scene at the end that had us bawling. Oh. I'll just leave it at that. Definitely take a chance on this movie, even if you guys aren't creature feature lovers. I think the performances alone you guys will fall in love with. All right, Flix Talkers, what did you think of A Quiet Place Day 1? If you guys have seen it, please let me know down in the comments below. Please, no spoilers, guys. And if you guys did appreciate my review on this film, please let me know by hitting that big thumbs up. Consider subscribing today for more. And where does this rank for you in the franchise? All right, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.